Hello silly people and welcome back to the channel. My name is Trey and today, as the start of inking season, we will be working out with our tools, and we will be working out with these little swatches for brushes and pens to get ourselves worked up, to work it out, to see how we can fare and get better, and mostly to knock off the rust. So we'll be doing this and with a little bonus at the end. So let's get started. So to start this, we're going to do some samples and textures, and this will be the pens, Microns, and Copics. So I have my pen text to simulate textures and all of that, and then we'll do that again for the brushes, and we'll do that as a way to get warmed up. Okay, so first we start off with the pen. And I have pens of various sizes, well, a lot of Microns of various sizes, and also the Copics on the left that are my oldest pens and don't get as much use, but they're of varying sizes as well. But I'm just going to go through and try out different ones, different sizes, making straight lines, and then we'll do some diagonal lines, some cross hatching, anything I can think of in a way to test out pens, moving your hands in different directions, left, right, up, down. Do anything you can just to try to figure out how this tool works. How do you use this tool? What feels most comfortable? You're trying to work out all the kinks of something that you might not be as well versed in, just to see what happens, have fun with it, and continue moving forward. So at this stage, it's all about just forward movement. Play with it, do whatever you can think of, because it's just practice. We're not at this stage in it just to make something pretty or, well thought out. We're just using the tools to see what happens when, like, I like these diagonal, horizontal, and lines over hatching, but we're just trying things out, seeing what happens. Some of it I don't like, some of it I'm just trying things and I'm like, no, I don't like that, how that looks. But it can lead to something else that does suit me and I can then use in further ink projects. So right now it's all about play. And so this is the pen workout, doing various movements and motions and lines and shapes and squiggles, circles, and all of that, just to see what we can do. Pens in action, just trying things and seeing things. But pens, their main strength is that they're very consistent. You can make a very consistent line with pens. You can vary your pressure, more ink, but more or less you know what you're going to get from a pen. And that's what I like about pens. So details, I do a lot of pen work, while brushes have their own strength. I have a natural brush that I'll be using. So this is a synthetic brush. Doesn't have real, I think this is sable, used for the brush, and this is, I think, synthetic, but this is also sable, but these are old and very well worn, and I use all of these for spot blacks, large areas of black ink. I usually use these ones, and this I use for outlining major areas with a brush. A handkerchief that I usually use for nibs, but sometimes you need to rest your hand or whatnot. And I have ink. Today we'll be using Yasutomo Black Sumi ink. I've already mixed it pretty well. I dipped the ink and now it's on the brush, and I usually have a test sheet that I can get the excess off. And now we're going to do a lot of the same things that we did for this one on the brushes. Now for pens, the practice is slightly different because a brush and a pen are totally different in that a brush with enough ink on the tip, you can modulate or vary the amount of ink that gets on the paper by pressure. And that's what I love about a brush. And so I'm not the most fluent in the brush, so I'm trying out different things. A lot of pressure to start, light pressure to start, heavy pressure to end, and then just doing straight lines. Then I'll do some vertical lines, straight vertical lines, straight horizontal lines, diagonal lines, and then mix it up from there, doing wavy. And what we try not to do is get ink into the stomach, which is where the metal part is, because it's harder to clean the brush or get it as clean as it should be if ink gets into that metal part. So you try to keep the ink at the tip or like halfway, maybe 3/4 and down. But having enough ink on the brush, and it'll start to, you'll use it as you put ink on the page. And so there's less on the brush and it looks a little bit drier, a little bit more texture in it. And so it's trying to manage all that while inking. And so there's more to think about when you're inking with a brush than inking with a pen. So I like to use it for the outlines and for more what I call live lines. Live lines are the fluctuations between thick and thin. So you can have a very light edge and then go to a thicker, more contoured edge, just depending on how much pressure you put down. And that's always fun for me. So to start some of these with the brush, I'm mimicking some of the things that I did with the pen, just to see what the difference is between the two. And then after I feel comfortable and warmed up enough, then we can move on to more interesting, different and varied, what the brush does, I would guess say better, or a unique feature of the brush that is different from pens in the bottom half. Also, one thing I have to say that doing the squiggle lines in the pen wasn't very satisfying, but doing it in a brush is extremely satisfying. There's something about doing squiggles and then trying to move the pressure of your hand just so that it makes a various, line weights is incredibly satisfying. And so I'm trying heavier pressure at the start, lighter pressure at the end. Can I do very thin lines? Can I do modular, varied lines? It's just great. I love that part. Now shapes, doing in a brush is very inconsistent and relatively hard to do. Like I have no real gauge of, like, it's like writing with a brush, and I am not used to that at all. And so I found these fairly hard to do. I was not right quite with this one. So doing this and practicing, small lines to big lines, light pressure to heavy pressure is pretty much the name of the game at this point. And I'm getting that flow. I feel the difference. And some things, that I like more in the brush than doing with the pens, and vice versa. But this is just a pretty good exercise just to practice with your tools, to get the ideas out and just play with it. One thing that I sometimes do is you can use a fingerprint. A non-essential finger would be, say, this one. Touch it, and then you got ink, and then you can dab that. And I do this, I love doing this technique. It is incredibly messy. It is incredibly, I do not do it a lot, but when I do it, I love doing it. I don't know, there's something about the tactile feel of getting all messy. But yeah, use it sparingly, but I love this. And that is making texture with fingerprints. But this is unpredictable. All right, you can add to it after the fact, darken some areas. Whatever effect you're trying to get, you can usually get it. It's fingers. Now, another technique, let's see if I have this could get messy. Let's put a little guard underneath. Ink splatter I like doing it because it's fun, but it is very unpredictable and it can get rather nasty. And you can sometimes just flick it, and you're just flicking. But again, it's dangerous and unpredictable. This is smudging, where you're putting something down and then you're smudging. Right now I'm just trying to clean my finger. But yes, inks can be fun, yet dangerous. You can go, it doesn't have to be structured. You can just smudge a various dryness, but try what works for you. And that is brushes. So I use the synthetic and I use I think I'm getting ink everywhere. The Sable. And I'm gonna go clean these now, but that is, try not to touch anything. So that was the tool workout with the pens and the brushes. Doing all these little exercises, making textures and just trying things out to get my hand and just a feel for the tools. So that was working out with our tools, brushes and pens. Just trying to get back into a flow, back into a system, get our chops back up. So thank you for joining me. I have been Trey Hodges. You can find my work at treyhodges.com. And I'll see you next week, where we'll be doing Lore of the Silver Hand in pen, I believe. So until then, keep shining. And then finally, to end each video during inking season, I think I'll do a short artists that I thoroughly enjoy their work. I will go over how I'm studying from them. And so one thing I want to do is study. So I have this one, which I did with the nibs, all nib, all Microns and Copics. And I want to see if there's any noticeable difference. So that's what I'm testing out here. Philip Tan is the artist for these two spiral, who's a character from the Marvel X-Men realm, if you're interested in that. Also, I have two Lokis. This is John Buscema's Loki, and this is Oliver Coipel. I think it's Oliver. Or is it Olivier? I think it's Oliver. But he's French, and I could be wrong. So two Lokis. Again, I'm trying to see whether inking with these two were done with just a pen. Microns, Copics. I did both of these. And then I'm going to try to do it with a nib next to see if there's any difference. So I'm testing my tools out in a real world setting to see what the difference is. And then we'll do next month, I figure we'll do a Lore of the Silver Hand, larger illustration where I take you through the process of making a total piece from beginning to the end. From the concept, thumbnail sketches, blow those up, take them into rough sketches to fine sketches to inks, and then the final. So that is the plan for inking season. Thank you for joining me. Power to the creators, and I will see you next week. Take care, keep shining.